So I'm between you and drinks. Thank you, Lakshmi, for making me last. But hopefully you'll get something out of this talk. I've been a big fan. I think I'm the only Vietnamese, too, by the way, in the room. And it's the first 24 hours of my first time in India. So thank you. So, Wabi Sabi. How many people are familiar with the philosophy of Wabi Sabi? Raise your hand high. Okay. And you can hear me okay? I've become a really big fan over the last few years, and especially over the last few weeks, of this concept of Wabi Sabi that comes from Japan, and I'm not Japanese. The belief that things in life are temporary, that nothing lasts forever, and that imperfections is what's important than the vanity of beauty that is perfect. I'm a female refugee from Vietnam, born during the fall of 1975. My first imperfection was that my father wanted a boy. And as you can see on this stage, there are 6 girls. And my father had 4 girls, 1 boy, was happy. 8 years later, the war came and decided to have another boy, and came out me. I'm the boy sitting on his lap. The interesting thing is, by the Asian community is boys are sacred, and boys are the ones who are supposed to take care of their father. Well, in the end, I actually ended being the one who took care of my father for 18 months before he passed away in February. And then we went to this beautiful place called Minnesota. How many people know where Minnesota is? Cold as heck. I'm from San Francisco, and I think that's cold now. It's the coldest winter is in California. Being a refugee and an immigrant in the state of Minnesota, I didn't know any better at the age of 4 that I was different. But as you know, there's a lot of white people in the state of Minnesota. And yet I knew no better because I'm a banana. I'm an Asian girl who feels like and thought she was white. It's where you grow your nature and you get brought up, right? So I was into Jewish boys and white boys because that's where I grew up. One of my parents' next imperfections about me. But I ended up becoming the first youth governor of the state of Minnesota that was Asian. I started college at the age of 16 to save my parents' money because we had no money. But I'm most proud of the fact that I became youth governor because I believed in politics and I wanted to become the first president of the United States that was an immigrant by changing the 22nd Amendment. And I still want to change it. I loved debate. I loved politics. I loved the American dream. And I won the top 16 debate positions out of 300 attendees in the entire United States. But there's the law of gravity. What's the law of gravity? Everything that goes up must come down. My challenge number 1 in life. I dropped out of college my first year and gave up my full scholarship. I became the first and only teenage pregnant mom out of 7 in my family. And as you know, as an Asian, what a stigma that is. To go to your mother and say, Mom, you've never met this guy. I'm supposed to have graduated at 20 years old, become a lawyer and president of the United States, and now I'm giving that up. And by the way, I'm not having an abortion, and telling him that I had an accident. And you've never met this man? but I'm going to have this baby and move out of state. Someone I only met for 9 months, who eventually I had 3 more kids with. But it was the hardest time in my life. It was the most loneliest time in my life because I would walk around working for any job I could with this big belly saying I'm going to be president of the United States one day. And I'm a straight A student. The people I worked with did not believe me. And my mother wasn't sure that I would finish college. But lonely times and hard times teach you a lot. And I think why it was the hardest is because I knew no one in that state and went there by myself. This daughter now is 27 years old. And I had 4 kids. And I took second place to my Mensa, white, smart husband who had ambition and went into sales. Even though I had a finance degree, I went to work for some company called Sun Microsystems and didn't know what Java was. He just told me that the stock was growing and his workstation cost $80,000 to go work and do that. But I did try to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to become CEO one day, and so I was trying to manage both. But my next challenge was that it didn't work for me. He had a high IQ. He married me because he thought I was ambitious and I was going somewhere. But at 19, I was much further behind than him in understanding the workplace, education, and culture. By the time I was 30, I had caught up. And some might say I had surpassed him. But he wanted me to take an IQ every day and ask if my IQ had changed or surpassed his. And at that time, I didn't realize EQ was better than IQ. But it wasn't something, again, it was a stigma to divorce. And he called my mother in and said, she's not being a good daughter. Please tell her what to do and stop arguing with me. So for 6 months, my mother lived with us, and I am the only of 7 children that she was giving approval to give a divorce to. Because she knew I needed to be happy, and I had turned into someone that I didn't like. So during the time of my divorce, I just felt I wanted to become C-suite. John W. Thompson, the gentleman chairman who put Satya in at Microsoft, was one of my mentors. I thought I was going places quickly, and it didn't turn that way. So I started Oak Rocket because a gentleman knew me and said, you know what, that dream you had isn't going to work out. You break the rules too much, you're too opinionated, and maybe you'd be a better entrepreneur because you're smart enough. So I bootstrapped this company with $40,000. It became one of the fastest women-owned companies in the last 4 years by Chase Bank. But we're here to talk about my imperfections and how you get back up. So I want to, as any proud mother, talk about my youngest daughter. She's my mini-me. Out of my 4 kids, she was the most like me. She debated, she went traveling with me. She even did a talk for SiliconANGLE, and you'll see that in this video. I was so proud and astounded by her. But life changed on August 1st, 2023. 7 weeks and 3 days ago, my daughter passed away. And people ask, what am I doing standing up here today? And how am I able to do it? because nothing in my past, of all my other challenges, have prepared me for this. But life has to go on. I have 3 other children. I've made a commitment to a woman who saw something in me and has helped me want to share and keep something alive. So why and how could I move forward so quickly on this last tragedy than I did in the last others? Lesson number 1, surround yourself with people who see you more than you see yourself. Thank you, Lakshmi. For those who saw me being an entrepreneur, for those who saw me being a governor, my mom and dad, ignorance is bliss, told my representative I was wasting my time, I would never win, and I wasn't washing enough dishes and working in the restaurant. My YPO family, my Harvard family, flew in, the global chairman of the board flew in 2 days after my daughter died and said, I don't care if you don't open your door. I know you're gonna feel my energy, I'm dropping up food, and I'm there for you. So although being pregnant was hardest for me than this situation, it's because of the community I have built and have been so lucky to meet over the past 27 years. Lesson number 2, when you know to leave mentally and continue to learn, you need to know when to leave mentally, not just physically. I tried to divorce him for 4 years, it didn't work. Mentally means being able to really believe that you can do something and move on. That doesn't mean you don't feel anymore, but it means you can move on. When I was youth governor, before I got pregnant, I wanted to go to Harvard. So at the age of 42, I was able to get a scholarship to Harvard. And I think continual learning is so important. Doing a speech like this, because I did NLP, Neuro-Linguistics Reprogramming, which teaches you how to rethink your mind, that I'm not stupid, like my husband wanted me to feel. Even though he said, you can run your own startup, sure, we can agree to that. And I said, let me guess, you want to be chairman of the board? That won't work, because they're still suffocating you. NLP, from books like Untethered Soul, Landmark Forum, gets you to rethink things like anger. I was so angry. But anger is like a poison pill that you swallow and you expect the other person to die. But all you're doing is creating cancer and illness within yourself. Those are the things that NLP teaches you, and I have learned in the last 14 years of divorce to help me get out of my own box. And parenting, it's the hardest thing in the world. This young daughter of mine, the other 3 were the easiest. I say she was 3 times worse than my other 3, but she was also my best friend. And lesson number 3, live a life powerfully and when you love. And who best to tell you this than my own daughter?
My mother has taught me to never let anyone tell me what I can and cannot do. She teaches me that there is no limit, that possibilities are endless despite any given circumstance. She's proved that even through hardships, you can make a difference. Nothing would mean anything if I wasn't living a life I loved. This is life, not heaven, and we're not meant to be perfect. We are meant to sing, we are meant to dance, get funky, as some may say. Nobody should waste their time being unhappy. Go make changes and stay true to yourself.
What was seen as her imperfections actually was what made her beautiful. Now that she has passed away, we love and can't help but share those many stories of her consistent courage, boldness, and all of her imperfections that made her my Wabi Sabi.
Thank you. So if anyone would like to take a QR code and learn more about my daughter, she was an amazing writer. These are books you can get digitally on that passcode and URL. We have some of these bookmarks for you out in the bookstore so you can learn more about my daughter and follow as we're trying to help underprivileged socioeconomic children be able to write better so that they can communicate and tell you what they feel. Thank you very much.